your mobile phone.
You
Now,
know,
for those
batteries.
now, for those not initiate, don't know about what this project is. It's not something to be ridiculed. It's not some sort of crank experiment. What it is, the Arecibo Radio Observatory in New Mexico, I believe, scans the sky and records background noise and noise from the stars. And what its intent is to listen out for signals which don't come from Earth, which could be of extraterrestrial origin. It then splits this data into packets, which it sends to your computer, and your computer uses your idle cycles to scan this for any unusual blips in the signal. It's very different to anybody who's seen the film First Contact, and somebody doesn't physically sit there with a set of headphones. The machine, your PC, does it all automatically and just buzzes away. And you can use it as a screensaver, and it's a really good project because whilst it may not find ET on the end of on any type of signal in space, what it can prove is that there isn't a signal which can be just as valuable as well. And it's a project that I've been involved with for quite a few years on and off. So that coming to the marketplace, bit of a novelty, bit of fun, I think. I'm certainly going to download it when it's out officially on the marketplace. It's currently in a private beta, I understand, so we'll have to wait a little bit longer. But even the iPhone's going to be getting a version apparently in the summer. So that's definitely one to look forward to, and there'll be links on the show.
I was going to say that there's a few like that for different purposes, like Folding at Home, where basically you're one of hundreds of thousands of people all around the world using your spare cycles to number crunch, but send the data back. So yeah, I mean it is a worthwhile project.
Currently, for Linux users, you've got Boink, which is the client which handles quite a few different projects. Like Gordon says, Folding at Home, you've got the SETI at Home project. And off the top of my head, I can't think of any others, but there's a lot of very good projects which are very, very useful and do allow you to contribute in the medical research and all sorts. So I would strongly recommend people have a look at the Boink client and see what's on offer there, and donate a bit of your CPU time to one of these really great projects.
A funny sort of thing that came into my mind when you were starting to explain it about searching for extraterrestrial life was I could just imagine walking past a tea party meeting with your mobile phone on and this scanner running, and it suddenly going nuts as it picks up sort of non-human life forms inside the building. But yeah,
that brings up quite a good question, because I don't actually know what happens if Boink, so I'm running Boink on my desktop at the moment, but if Boink actually does pick up something erroneous,
they just exploit your computer. You just use it as a computational server. So
you don't get a nice message with something flashing.
No.
Oh,
that's
right.
I personally think it's quite. I mean, I've been watching lots of videos the past year, especially things with astronomy in them. And trying to actually understand what it is they try to find in terms of patterns. And some of it is like prime numbers and kind of very unlikely things to be found. And then I know about lots of projects to do with like cancer research and all kinds of simulations and modeling of faces and things. And these need lots of CPU cycles, but they don't need quite as many. Because you know the amount of signal you get from the sky is enormous. And I think lots of people donate towards trying to find prime numbers in the sky. And then you have even people acknowledging that even if you do find life forms in other planets, they might be interested in just colonizing Earth instead of actually doing anything beneficial. We always think of them with, having 2 eyes and 2 hands and being around the same size, and usually smaller because, it makes a good feeling if they're kind of smaller and cuddly. But the truth is they can be like 100 times bigger, even like 10,000 times bigger. They can have like so many legs, and who knows what, if they have legs at all. They can just float in the air. So we kind of assume it's going to be, nice people like us, and they came from a different planet, because that's the way Hollywood portrays the aliens. And that's just the where Hollywood kind of fails to give you a portrayal of what to expect. And this is why people donate some cycles. I think just watch ET and think, that's so wonderful. Yeah, I'm going to give them some cycles now. But that's not exactly what you think when you watch the, what's it called, The Blob or The Thing or all kinds of films where you're supposed to be horror film with aliens. They're like, no, keep them away from me. Try and find a way of, it's just a fantasy.
Well, it was just sorry, Gordon.
No, I was just going to spin off into a different sort of slightly related thing that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
On the medical thing, another story that just boiled my blood when I read it was there was a story about a company being awarded a monopoly, if I read it right, it's a patent, on some medication for pregnant women that apparently helps prevent premature births. Before they were granted this monopoly, the doses they were selling were $10. I think the company's in New Zealand, so it might be Aussie dollars or something. I didn't read it exactly. But anyway, before the patent, the monopoly was awarded, the doses were $10 each, and then mysteriously, just completely coincidentally, as soon as they were confirmed as being the monopoly holder, the doses shot up from $10 to $1,500 per dose. Now, apparently, during the 9 months of the pregnancy, women should be getting 20 doses. So basically, the total cost of that one medicine for one child, one baby, or one pregnancy, shot from $200 to $30,000. That makes my blood boil. That really makes me angry, and that's why patents are a complete fucking disaster for people. They're good for the companies, you could argue, but for people, no, certainly not. So I don't know if anyone else saw that, or...
It happens all the time, to be honest. It's just a normally... But the worst thing, though, I'm not sure you've heard about this, is the companies try to destroy the generics. So what they do is they take over the competitors who offer generics to kind of dissolve them, which they can do. Like, these companies will say, oh, fine, buy us, just pay the right amount of money. And as soon as they do that, they can remove the generics from the market, and then the only options people have is to buy very expensive drugs or die. So what happens then in places like India, especially now that you have things like the TRIPS, the TRIPS provisions, and all kinds of things like the ACTA, the ACTA treaty, basically, if these things pass, you basically, when you sign this document, consent to that sort of stuff, you basically sign a death knell of perhaps hundreds of thousands of people, but you probably won't care about them because they're like really poor, so you're not supposed to treat them well. The ACTA is probably pretty good for corporations, especially in the West, but any person who lives in India or Sahara and people who are all kinds of treatments, they will just die because of that.
Well, staying relatively on topic, what I'd like to mention quickly, last episode we very briefly covered the LG and Sony issue, which now seems to be resolved, and it seems that LG has there's no substance to their claim, and the hold on the PlayStation 3 consoles there was presently an embargo on the imported PlayStation 3 consoles. That appears to be lifted, and everything's back to normal. Apart from LG may well find it to be a very costly experience. I don't particularly have a lot of sympathy for LG, and I don't know, Roy, if you saw this article, whether you have any comments to make.
We had a site called Boycott Novell, and one of the companies, one of the first, in fact, since 2007, we basically called for sort of a boycott against was LG, and the reason is they signed a deal with Microsoft without specifying what it is they paid for in Linux. They basically said, well, we pay Microsoft for Linux. What for? Well, we don't say. And I don't think they actually necessarily agreed on something or showed something, but Microsoft and LG have a special relationship, as the same thing with Samsung, and they basically decided, well, we want to have some sort of patent agreement with Microsoft. We will pass them some money on an annual basis because we use Linux in our phones. Most of them use it in phones, I think. And it's problematic. So the response to it is if LG is trying to sell you an Android phone, don't take the LG phone. Go for Motorola or some Ericsson, or in this case, you also have, I suppose, Acer is selling some of them now. And you have ways of avoiding the Android tax or the Microsoft tax on Android. And LG is one of the first companies to cave. And being one of the first companies to cave is important because it actually means it sets the path for Microsoft to go on to more and more companies later on and saying, well, look, LG paid us for it, and we will sue you unless you sign this document here. and that's what they did in Korea.
Just and we are a little bit pushed for time, as I said at the beginning of the show, with Roy having to use Dongle at the moment. There's been a bit of news recently